Hi friends, host Eric here, Eric Strauss running for president as well, and this video is a quick video in which I'm going to talk a little bit about a very long conversation I had last night with an INFJ named Matthew about Jordan Peterson, about argumentation, about running for president, about messages and messaging. So the reason I had this conversation is he expressed to me that he felt as though those in the room when I asked the question about Jordan Peterson the other night had not adequately explained to me what it was that I needed to know. So I talked to him, and he told me a lot of things that he said, well, here's what they provided as reasons why he's more successful than you, which was never the question I asked in the first place, by the way, but that's fine. Um, and here's the thing, that's just window dressing. The real core issue is, and he tried to express to me what he felt the real core issue was, and the gist of it was people like him. People love him. People think he's honest, and they identify with him. They resonate with him as a person. That the ideation is just the part of the process of being believed and followed, behaving like a leader in some regard. Okay, so the conversation then went on to issue of, okay, well, what exactly is he arguing then? Because I kept running afoul of saying things like, okay, well, here's something I note about Jordan Peterson, and it's the same thing every time, basically. It's his tendency towards utilitarian argumentation. And I say, this is why this is a bad kind of thing to do, And he insists, oh, well, I don't understand what Jordan Peterson's actual arguments are. I asked him to articulate them as best as he could. And what I heard was things like this. One of the reasons why it's important to protect free speech as a value is because if you think about the evolutionary source of free speech, why did it come about? Why do we have as a species neuroticism, for example? Well, the neurotic member of a tribe might unnecessarily worry about something unfamiliar or think it's a threat and everybody hide, and it turns out to be nothing. Or sometimes they might think it's a threat, turn out run and hide, and it turns out to be a big deal, and they save the whole tribe from disaster. Thus, there's an evolutionary reward to protecting free speech. Okay, well, so this sort of story is the sort of story that Jordan Peterson tends to tell, except it's not a reason for anything, it's not a justification for anything, and it's, if you use it as such, you do harm. And the reason is as follows. Well, if I can show that free speech links to the destruction of society rather than the preservation of it, in other words, if I can point to the Athenians deliberating too much while the hordes conquered them, if I can point to the Mongol hordes as an example of the rewards of oppressing free speech, and in fact that produces more societal success or societal durability, then is it evolutionarily advantageous for us to suppress free speech? So the answer, of course, is that's why you don't make that kind of argument in the first place, because it's turnable. It's easy for me to say, well, using your reasoning, here's another example. So Matthew provided us another rendition of Jordan Peterson's argumentation as a preferable alternative to the one he just said. He pointed out that Jordan Peterson has indicated that there's a strong correlation between protection of free speech rights and prosperity. If you look at a nation that protects free speech rights, look at them 100 years later, they're going to be substantially more prosperous than the nation that oppresses free speech rights. And sure, certainly you can come up with a couple of examples of that, like Taiwan and China, that work perfectly. Okay. However, you can also come up with Dubai and Saudi Arabia, very rich and prosperous countries that do not link with this. Now, granted, he said 100 years. So how long have Saudi Arabia and Dubai been in existence? I'm not sure as their current incarnations. I don't know about Dubai. I think Saudi Arabia predated the Second World War. I'm pretty sure. That's an area where I'd have to learn something. But the point being, regardless of the 100-year criteria, the problem with the argument is the same. If I can then establish links where a lack of free speech has correlated with an increase of prosperity, does that justify oppressing free speech? Those aren't good reasons to protect freedom of speech. And there are very good reasons, which I articulated in my conversation with Matthew, in which I could articulate again and explain why it's important that you make certain kind of arguments in certain ways. and how if you don't make them in those ways, then you concede framework ground to the side that you oppose. So when I try to tell this to anybody who's a big fan of Jordan Peterson, they conclude that I'm arrogant, um, a hater, or wrong, or I don't know, or jealous. I mean, I may be jealous of the guy. I wouldn't deny that. I think I would love to have that level of success. That doesn't mean I want to be like Jordan Peterson more. I'm me, and there's nobody else I'm ever going to be. You know, I'm a TINE user, not a TENI user. And unfortunately, part of the big takeaway from my conversation with Matthew was that if I want to be successful, I need to render things into universal metaphors, even though doing so may be false or harmful. And that's a tricky thing for me to have to wrestle with, and I got to think about that some more. I certainly don't want to be false or harmful, but the bottom line is the key element of NITE is that arguments aren't made by people. They exist in the ether. And my key point is that's bullshit. Every time an argument's made, it's made by a person, and they have to own the words they said. If we choose to argue things as though there exists in the ether arguments that are superior inherently, then we misunderstand what argumentation is for. It's a deliberative process by which we deduce logically that which is the best conclusion to draw, provided a finite set of alternatives. So that's what I'm getting at. Jordan Peterson, the arguments you're making may advocate on behalf of the right side of things. And his various followers and such, you guys, I'm not attacking his intelligence. I'm not attacking his positions. I'm not saying I disagree with what he advocates for in general. I'm all in favor of the no excuses general thing and a return to precise reasoning. But that's my point. Let's aspire to live up to the values we uphold. And if I'm going to tell you, and you're a Jordan Peterson fan, that he's not a rhetorician, as per his own words, and he doesn't really know what he's doing argumentationally, then be the value he upholds and manifest the behavior necessary to express that value. Namely, hear what I'm saying and critique it analytically. I'm right, and it matters. So that's my overall message is I need to learn to be more FE. You need to like me, even though I'm telling you this shit that you probably don't really want to hear if you're a Jordan Peterson fan. And I need to present myself in such a way that I assert the truth that the reason I'm right is because of the reasons I provide, and the reason I'm consistently more right is because of my job. It links to me personally. It links to an SI thing. And that's kind of offensive to NI users. It's like, hey, buddy, the truths are out there for us all to access. Don't pretend like you've got unique access to them or whatever. Except the problem is I do have unique access to them. It requires somebody to both be a debate coach and be engaged enough with the community that they can go, I need to legitimize and understand and respect the different valuing metrics of different people. I need to understand how people actually value and act as though they are legitimate beings equal to myself. It's that kind of qualified TI that's mitigated and softened by genuine care for people that's difficult sometimes for ENTPs to get to. You know, it takes a long time and a lot of affirmation for the ENTP to feel secure enough to genuinely turn their attention to caring about other people. So, a little bit of rambling. Brittany, you got any closing remarks or any thoughts on this whole thing?
Well, you were just making me think the way you were saying, like I said right there, own the ideas. It's like a prescription. If you're going to write out a prescription, say why you should do this, then that means you need to be like the doctor. You need to own it, and you need to say what it is that you're doing. You know, you need to talk about what the side effects are going to be, and that's owning both sides, not only the good and the bad side. It's not saying freedom of speech. You know, you're going to get these things But so anyway, you just gave me a good concept. That's all. It's probably not related to your whole thing, but.
Well, Brittany, if it links to you, then it's legitimate. Okay.
Really big.
Regardless, thank you for sitting and listening. Thank you for chiming in here at the end, and I appreciate the fact you were able to link to it. Thank you all out there for watching. And if you would like to help my cause in whatever way you feel most comfortable, there are a lot of ways in which you could do so. You could contribute to my campaign. You could buy something from the store. You could, and this would be hugely helpful, share a video or something. I would love to get more visibility. I'd love to be able to speak to more people. Brittany bought a t-shirt. That's a fantastic t-shirt. Every time she goes out to the opera, she wears it and everyone goes, ooh la la, you look fancy.
I'm going to make it into a dress. I'm going to like cut the sides out and do something fancy with it.
That's very Talking with Famous People.
Actually, I'm not. I'm preserving it.
Okay, well, either way, if you were to make something out of it, that would be absolutely consistent with community values around here. So, thanks again for watching, and don't forget to eat plenty of cheese, and God bless America. Vote Strauss 2020.